What if World War I had never happened? Picture this. It's the summer of 1914. Europe is a powder keg, and one gunshot in Sarajevo lights the fuse. But what if it didn't? What if leaders stepped back from the brink, and the Great War, the war that killed millions and shaped the 20th century, never broke out? Today, we'll explore an alternate world where trenches never scarred Europe, empires never crumbled overnight, and the century unfolded along a very different path. What would it look like? The bullet that didn't change the world. In our world, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand set Europe ablaze. But imagine Austria-Hungary choosing restraint, or Germany pressuring its ally into negotiation instead of war. No declarations of war, no continent-wide mobilization. The headlines of 1914 tell of political crises, yes, but then life goes on. The armies stay in their barracks. Farmers harvest their crops. Europe exhales, narrowly avoiding catastrophe. The war that should have engulfed the world never comes. Empires that refuse to die. Without the Great War, the map of Europe looks frozen in time. The Austro-Hungarian Empire, riddled with nationalist tensions, limps along, perhaps reforming into a federation instead of imploding. The Ottoman Empire, branded the sick man of Europe, still holds Istanbul, still rules the Middle East, modernizing slowly. The Russian Tsars cling to power. Even Germany, instead of being humiliated by Versailles, remains a proud empire, confident and ambitious. Europe's old order doesn't collapse overnight. It stretches into the 20th century, like a shadow that never lifts. A different Europe, a different world. In this alternate reality, millions of young men live who in our history never returned from the trenches. Entire generations aren't scarred by gas, machine guns, and endless mud. Economically, Europe keeps its crown. The United States grows, but more slowly because Europe isn't drained by war debts. Paris, Berlin, and Vienna remain the glittering centers of culture. And colonial empires, stronger than ever. India, Africa, and the Middle East stay firmly under European control. Independence movements delayed, freedom postponed. No Hitler, no World War II. Now, here's where things get truly world-changing. Without the humiliation of defeat, without the chaos of the 1920s, there is no Adolf Hitler. No Nazi rallies, no Holocaust, no swastikas flying over Europe. Fascism, perhaps, still emerges somewhere, but not in the same way, not with the same fury. And if there's no Hitler, there's likely no World War II, no D-Day, no Stalingrad, no atomic bombs on Japan. The single deadliest conflict in human history simply never exists. Russia's alternate path. Think about Russia. In our world, the strain of war broke the Romanovs, opening the door to Lenin, Stalin, and the Soviet Union. But in this timeline, the Tsars may stumble, but not collapse. Lenin remains in exile, scribbling pamphlets. Stalin, a minor revolutionary, never a dictator. Russia might reform gradually or face a civil war decades later. But the Soviet Union as we know it never rises. And without it, no Cold War. No nuclear arms race. No Iron Curtain dividing the globe, science, culture, and lost revolutions. Here's the twist. War accelerates change. In our history, World War I gave us tanks, aircraft, medical breakthroughs, even women's suffrage movements that gained strength during the conflict. Without war, progress is slower. The roaring 20s might still roar, but with less disillusionment, less rebellion. No lost generation writing of despair. Instead, Europe stays locked in its Gilded Age a little longer. More stability, but less revolution, the long shadow of empire. And what of the colonies? In our world, the exhaustion of war weakened the imperial grip. But here, Britain, France, and others keep their empires into the mid-20th century, ruling over hundreds of millions with little challenge. Independence for India, Egypt, and Africa is delayed, maybe until the 1960s or 70s. For those under colonial rule, a world without World War I might feel less like peace and more like chains that last much longer. So, what if World War I had never happened? The world avoids two global wars, the Holocaust and the Cold War. Millions live who would have died, yet it's not paradise. Old empires drag on, progress slows, and oppression endures longer. The 20th century becomes calmer, but also more stagnant. History reminds us, sometimes avoiding a great tragedy doesn't create a utopia, but simply a different set of challenges. Still, one truth stands. Without 1914, our world today would be utterly unrecognizable.